Hi guys, it's Isa. So in February I read 10 books and today we're gonna see my wrap-up, see my opinions, reactions, as well as read some opposite reviews from Goodreads. Starting with the new releases, I read House of Sky and Breath and Only a Monster. I ended up loving more Only a Monster than House of Sky and Breath,
but we'll get to that little by little.
and the first one was House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. After I read this, I gave them a 4 stars, but as time is passing by, I feel that I'm dragging it a little bit more. Now might be a 3.5 kind of, which saddens me no end because it was one of my most anticipated releases of the year. It starts sometime after the events of book 1 and Hunt and Bryce are trying to lay low for a while, right? But then Bing them soon end up getting into a little bit of a mess and they start kind of like in another thriller-like plot trying to find and save a special kid that seems to have a very rare kind of power and everyone wants to have it as a weapon in this war. I was sharing this with Jess from Honest Fiction and I was telling her that I felt as when I was reading the third book of A Throne of Glass. So I was kind of messed with all this Gale situation and I just didn't want to read it, but I wanted to read it because I was hoping something better would come out of it and for things to be fixed. So that was kind of like my feeling. I really wanted this to work, but it kind of didn't. And as I feel I'm more kind of like in the middle for this one, I'm gonna do a 5 stars and also a 1-star review from Goodreads. Starting from the 5 stars, we have Hello Yes, I feel so validated now. Sarah really said, hold my champagne, I've got work to do and hearts to destroy. Just, I was right, y'all. I was right. It is 4 a.m. and I'm reeling and I haven't slept. And just, holy shit, Sarah did that. And then we have the 1-star review, which is, this is legitimately the biggest disappointment probably ever. Just no. Then we go to the second release, Only a Monster, which for me, easily 5 stars. It's definitely YA and you need to be in that mood for it because it really is YA. But if you are, I mean, it's a great debut. I believe the summary doesn't convey properly how interesting the story is, but at the same time I believe that the story benefits from going with low expectations. So I'll try to be vague while being informative, and we will be following our main girl who is half human, half monster. But these monsters are not kind of like werewolves monsters or any paranormal creature that you might be thinking of, but rather these very special beings that are able to time travel. In order to time travel though, they need to suck time from humans. That's kind of like the source of this energy or this way in which they travel. Our girl doesn't really know much about these monsters, but then one day she discovers herself traveling in time, triggering a set of events that will have massive consequences, and the rest of the book will unfold from here.
I love it. I was very hooked to the pages.
But let's read a 1-star review for it. This is absolutely awful and juvenile. Everything is written in simple, short sentences. No creativity at all. It's just one big cliche. Just start with the fact that they're just called monsters, like a child's book. Nothing specific or interesting at all. And I heavily disagree. I agree that it's juvenile, and I agree as well that it has an easy way to get to it. It's narrated very easily, but the monster thing, I thought it was so interesting and actually so original. There are different kind of monsters and each family of monsters have a different power beyond the time traveling.
Wow.
Then we go to the series that I started in February, and the first one is Prison Healer. Prison Healer was a lot, and I'm not sure. I think that right now it's kind of like a 3.5. The premise, it's interesting, and we will be following our main girl as she is kind of like been living in this prison all of her life, and she is taking the role as a healer, and so she has behaved really well all of this time because part of her family it's outside her family. It's kind of aligned with the rebellion that is going on. She has been receiving messages all of her life like, hold on, hold on, hold on. The thing is that one day the queen of these rebels come to the prison very, very, very sick, and she receives a note from her family saying, keep her alive, we are coming for you. And so our girl will need to face some decisions because this queen, it's very sick, she's gonna die, and she has been sentenced to pass these elemental trials. So she decided to go and do these trials by herself and trying to save the queen, because if she passes, then she and the queen will be released. And that seems interesting. The prison was interesting, and the trials, the idea of the trials seemed very interesting for me, very kind of like my vibe. I'm so much into elemental magic, but I wasn't bored because I read this pretty fast and I thought the pacing was well, but I was kind of expecting what happened in each of those trials, and that was kind of it. And then we have one of the tropes that I hate the most, which I'm not gonna be spoiling because spoilers, but and so again, as I fall a little bit in the middle, let's see reviews. You know when you have to take a shower mid-read because of the book is putting you to sleep? My experience. And then, yes, this book is definitely worth all the hype that it's getting. Then we have A City of Thorns, which for me was a 3-star read. And the thing is that it was so fun. It was kind of not absurd, but it was kind of like a little bit. So I had a lot of fun with it. I buddy read it with Jess from Honest Fiction, and I really enjoyed the experience. And I think that's the best thing about this book, honestly, the buddy read that I made. And the story will follow our main girl, who is kind of coping with the death of her mom, and so she is kind of in this revenge path because her mom was killed by a demon. So she now needs to infiltrate herself in the city of demons, the city of Thorns, and discover who killed her. In order to do so, she will be aligning herself with this demon who, you know, will help her pass as succubus in order to infiltrate this city. And so just the fact that she is a succubus and that he is kind of like this very sexy demon made the premise for me. I was in this mood, and the best of it was definitely the relationship and the scene between the two. But then it had a lot of other things that were just a no for me. Mainly, I don't really enjoy when a character explains to you how they are rather than showing it. I'm not really into emotions. I'm very bad demon. And the actions though that these demons have weren't that bad. So it was like, and then both characters change a really a lot in the last 50 pages. So that was also like,
What?
as I fall into the middle, let's see, a 5 and a 1 review. 5. Loved this. I had an awesome time reading it. It kept me turning pages and incredibly interested to see what would happen next. I found myself totally engrossed to the story, which I can see why, because it's very plot driven and it goes really fast and it's really short. And then the one, I tried to like it, but it was just too juvenile. Oh look, a demon! He is so badass. He's sex on legs. I'm a feisty heroine. No man compares to a demon who is sex on legs. And I am feisty. Then we have Rhapsodic, which for me was a 4 stars. We have this story about a siren and again a demon. This siren is able to compel people to do whatever she likes, but she has kind of like asked a lot of favors to this demon who is in fact a bargainer, and she as a result has like a lot of tokens of these favors that need to be repaid. And so one day this bargainer comes knocking again at her door and she needs to start paying them off. The charm about this book is that the main characters had a relationship kind of before, they were friends, so we are kind of having flashbacks, and also there's a lot of dialogue, so it goes really, really fast. This is something that you can 100% read in one sitting. As I rated it a 4, let's read a 2-star review. It was meh. This book was recommended to me by a friend who called it dark and sexy, and I found this book to be kind of like the missionary type of boring and as sexy as a toddler. Okay, then I finalized the Caraval series, so I read Finale and also I read Once Upon a Broken Heart because I wanted to remain in that world. And although I liked Finale, not my favorite one, I rated it kind of in a 4, the series overall I loved. Once Upon a Broken Heart wasn't as good for me. It follows the story of Jax and a new girl who is kind of like imperfect. She's kind of like one of us. I could totally relate. And she, will need to travel to the north, and she will see herself embedded in all of this political situation and also kind of like facing Jax and all of that. I love Jax in Caraval. I didn't love him as much in this book. I do think that it will get better in book 2, so I will read it, but it seemed like a lot of different plots happened and none of them were kind of like the magic that I was used to in Caraval. Let's see some 1 and 5 stars review from Once Upon a Broken Heart. From the 5, this book made me remember that my answer to the age-old question, if you could live in any fictional world, which one would it be? The answer would be Caraval. Yes, we're back in Caraval, but we're not back in Caraval. And then a 1. The long and the short of it is, it was completely underwhelming. There's basically not plot to speak of. Every character, yes, even Jax, fell flat. And I agree. Okay, and then I read book 1 and 2 of the Zodiac Academy, and 5 stars. I'm obsessed with this series. I've spoken about it no end over the last month, so I will try to be brief, but mainly we will be following 2 girls, which are the heirs of the throne. However, they have spent all of their lives in the human world and they don't know how to seize their magic. So they go into this Zodiac Academy to do so, and in this academy there's a lot of different fae. Magic mainly consists in grasping 1 or 2 of the 4 elements and having an order, kind of like a werewolf, a vampire, things like that, and they had the 4th of them and an unknown order. So the story progresses through that. There's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of people not wanting them there, and them kind of like putting in danger the structure of power that we have up till this point. All right, let's read a 1 star. This book, it's literally 2 main characters being violated emotionally, physically, and sexually over and over and over for the entire runtime of book. There are basically no other plot elements other than the next abuse that the Beggar twins, the sisters, will have to suffer throughout the hands of this evil man. Which I agree with this. It's kind of like easy for me now, because after book 2 and now I'm in book 3, they get a little bit more powerful and they start to stand their ground. But it definitely shocked me a lot when getting into the book, and I wasn't like, what am I reading? Then there's another message, which is kind of along with these. Why does Diego, one of the characters, have to use random Spanish word sentences? It seems like a cheap caricature to me. And this point, I must say it is true. I speak Spanish and it was weird. There were words that didn't make sense, like you haven't even went to a translator, different than Google. So, well, but overall I'm loving it. So, And last but not least, we have the Poison Song, which is the conclusion of the Winnowing Flame trilogy. And I loved this series overall. This book wasn't my favorite. I rated it with 4 stars, but I really enjoyed getting again into this world. It has took me almost a year to run through the whole series, and I'm honestly sad this moment has come. I won't spoil much about the story, but in a nutshell, in this story we will be following 3 main characters that go through this land trying to figure out mainly what's happening, because it seems that every now and then a war reigns upon them, but now no one remembers who these enemies are or how to fight them. So it's really slowly at the beginning, and it take me a little bit to get into the story, but once that you grasp it, as the characters grasp it, it's amazing. It's really a fantastic series. And in terms of the Goodreads review, the main thing that we are gathering is that yeah, it's a good book, but it's missing the relationship between the main characters, which start to play a little bit as a second role, and I actually agree with that. I thought that so many things were happening, and I think it's a solid conclusion, but I kind of missed a little bit the relationship between the characters and for them to have kind of like a bigger, more emotional role. And that was it for today. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Click that subscription button if you want to see more videos like this one, and I really hope to see you soon in other videos. Bye bye!